I'm Jessica Ann Pressler, and you've tuned into Your Traitor Within, a podcast that exposes the brutal truths of healing, self discovery, and breaking free from relentless patterns of self sabotage. Again, whatever happened when you were underage is sexual abuse, even if it felt good at times, which can be very confusing, of course. Um, and the times that it didn't, and you were scared, but you still went there. I really want to talk about it if you're able, because I want the shame. I want for you to not feel shame, of course. And by you telling your story, you help others not feel shame. And I know it must be confusing at the times that it felt good
Yeah.
because it felt good, but it doesn't
Yeah.
make it okay to be 13, 14, 15, 6.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of psychologists I've talked to, telling my story and being interviewed by them, we think sexual abuse is this horrific event, which is terrible, but it's not always violent. It's
Hmm.
not, always depicted in the movies as forceful rape.
Hmm.
And because the perpetrator knows, the person's more likely to keep coming back if it feels good,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Sometimes, of course, it is violent. And that's why it's those cases, the cases where it's not, I feel like it's more insidious because it's a slow burn. And
Yes.
it's not until later in life and they're all like, oh my gosh, I was sexually abused as a kid.
Yeah.
And so that's why it doesn't always feel bad.
Hmm.
Sometimes it feels good.
Hmm.
And then we don't really realize later in life that I was taken advantage of because I didn't have the cognitive ability to know what was happening, right?
You also didn't have the professionals around you who knew what was happening to tell you that it was, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, I feel like it was really like a tide. It was really this push and pull, like the tide coming in, tide coming out. Sometimes it felt really, really good. Sometimes it felt really, really unsafe, terrifying.
Hmm.
Um, And I think that's what played into my disorganized attachment that I have. I mean, there's other, of course, I developed a disorganized attachment, prior to this, but I feel like these instances all compounded each other and just reinforced one another.
Hmm.
Um, but like the sexual, abuses, um, almost felt I had like a different person.
Hmm.
I had to put on a different face that was
Hmm.
more mature, that was more sophisticated, um, than, a scared child.
Hmm.
Um, and and that's why I think, there's I have, tested for dissociative identity disorder a couple times. I haven't fully recognized it myself because I like to the disorders like this that are so hard to really say yes you have it. I like for continue to meet criteria for it over a period of years.
Hmm.
And I think dissociative identity disorder, we always think of like the severe extra, spectrum of it where someone has like 1,000 alters and they're
Like the movie Sybil. I think most people know,
yeah.
like, who don't understand. Yeah.
And with any mental illness, it's always on the spectrum. You're going to have lower, mild versions of it, and then you're going to have the more extreme, where people aren't really able to function as much. And so, uh, yeah, like that's what almost, being that chameleon was
Hmm.
what really kept me safe.
Right.
And,
That was your
uh,
protect. I mean, they were
yeah,
protecting you. They,
yes,
whatever they were, their intentions were good. It was
yes.
to protect you.
And, I feel like more of like a feminine
Hmm.
version of myself, kind of got constructed from that.
Hmm.
Um, and like I think when I'm writing in my book a lot now, and like the writing of my book in itself has been very eye-opening being able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People ask, why didn't I tell anyone? First, I didn't think it was sexual. I didn't think it was abuse,
Mm-hmm.
what was happening. And second, I didn't think people needed permission to touch me.
Mm-hmm.
That adults need permission to touch me
Mm-hmm.
because of all of the doctors growing up who were touching me without, asking, like, is it
Mm-hmm.
okay to touch you? They were just,
Yeah.
and because of, what happened to me when I was 7
Mm-hmm.
with second circumcision. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got in my mind when I was writing
Mm-hmm.
and the words came out to me, it was I didn't think people adults needed permission. Like they're adults. They know more than I do. I'm just child. And again, like the standardized attention, do as I say for my parents, don't say no to an adult.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
They gave the messaging. I mean, they told you that. They should have also said, um, people shouldn't touch you. They should ask permission first. They should ask us for, yeah, they missed a,
yeah. And um like the sexual abuse, um, what I haven't talked about yet, but I've, discovered from writing my book is I thought in some instances that they loved me
hmm
because of the sexual abuse, because I felt wanted, right? I felt like I'm being seen, these people must like me. And like they never stayed.
mm-hmm.
And so I again internalized that. I was like, well, it must be something must be wrong with me. I must be, not doing performing well enough. So a lot of ways, I dropped my barriers
Mm-hmm.
and I thought if I performed well enough
Mm-hmm.
to them,
Mm-hmm.
that if I gave them, the best sex, then they would stay.
Mm-hmm.
But no one ever did. And
Mm-hmm.
so
And you internalize
it's,
that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because, like, again, in the TV shows that, teenagers are watching, you're hearing that, oh, like, yeah, like the guy stayed with the girl and they had, this wonderful sex. And that's, what cemented their relationship. And that's why he kept coming back. All of these messages we're being told as children
Mm-hmm.
are not really true
Mm-hmm.
in dating.
Right. It's not.
And, um, there was no really conversation to me what sex was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And because I was experiencing, I had puberty at such a year, at 7, such a, that's anything below 9 is really problematic and has the possibility of um, it being impactful, negatively impactful to a child because of their they're developing faster than that's what's developmentally appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I was never put on hormone blockers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 7. I had pubic hair at 7. I was having leg hair by like 8,
Mm-hmm.
and my voice was cracking by the end of the 5th grade. And so I was always kind of ahead of everyone. In
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ways, I had to teach myself what it was to be a man
Mm-hmm.
because my stepfather wasn't doing any of that.
And your peers weren't there. So
Yeah,
you didn't have, yeah.
yeah. Um, and
How
like
did you feel being different?
I feel like because, of the ostracization of growing being identifying as being gay, it definitely played into some of the abuse. It made me more vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
more receptive to this type of, of to these perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think if I would have had people my age, because no one was, you know, gay in high school or in middle
They weren't,
school.
they weren't telling them they were
Yeah,
gay. People were
yeah,
gay.
or they
Yeah,
didn't even know themselves.
that could, yeah.
And so, um, it was really alienating. And I wasn't able to experience, a high school crush, a all these experiences because of the socialization we have as children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think um like the sexual abuse, um, there were times where, it was violent,
Mm-hmm.
and like it hurt the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, try to make sure no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think because I was exposed to sex at a young age, it made me more prevalent to being hypersexual. I
Mm-hmm.
think men in general who are abused become more hypersexual
Mm-hmm.
than hypo than the
Mm-hmm.
opposite because of just, sex drives of men.
Mm-hmm.
Younger men tend to be more sexually active, and so you kind of add that
Mm-hmm.
piece on top of it, it kind of just exacerbates it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like even though I turned 18, these behaviors didn't stop. Like I was still talking to people online,
Mm-hmm.
um, hoping someone would stay. And
And by the way, two things. 18 is not some magic number. You're now a grown up.
yeah, yeah,
And two, you didn't heal yet. So of course the same, you know, trauma responses really
yeah,
is gonna be there.
yeah. And um, there's like like the one time, where I was um sexually abused. It was by two newlyweds, and they, again, it wasn't violent, but it lasted till 8 in the morning, and I felt very seen by one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, maybe they like me, maybe they wanted to date me or pursue me, maybe out, and future fake myself
Mm-hmm.
that there's something I could do to um make them like me.
Mm-hmm.
And um I think when that didn't happen and they would ghost me,
Mm-hmm.
again, it was just the abandonment just got getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Um to the point where like even perceived abandonment can be very triggering for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When we talk, about abandonment melange, coined by Pete Walker, it's perceived or a, a perceived abandonment or abandonment in general can be very triggering for
Mm-hmm.
complex trauma survivors.
Yes.
And, it's a mixed emotion. It feels like you're in a fight or flight instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're feeling all these emotions at once, like grief, hopelessness, fear, anger, grief, all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel on a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Um, and I think um, yeah, it's why it's been hard for me to get into healthy relationships.
So what happens to you when you feel abandoned? What's your trigger response? What happened? How do you how did your body respond? How do you respond?
I first feel it in my gut,
Mm-hmm.
and then it quickly comes up to my throat and spreads out to my chest, and then it comes up to my like the temple of my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just feel a sense of panic,
Mm-hmm.
of almost terror,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then anger.
Mm-hmm.
Like why are they doing this to me? Like What did I do? Why does this keep happening? And then sadness
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of powerlessness because I know there's nothing I can do
Mm-hmm.
to change the situation, right? And that's gotten better with time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, doing, somatic therapies, doing EMDR, doing my own healing,
And some
um,
grief work, I assume, also
and grief work.
after.
Um,
Yeah.
and but I feel like that trigger will always still be there. Um, I think it might get less loud
I think that's
as the years will
right.
go by, but I feel like it will always be in the background.
Right. But with work, it does become less there.
Yeah.
And you learn different ways what you're doing that when you do feel triggered, you can recognize it as being a trigger. And maybe this is not what's really happening right here. You're not really, you're not, or the abandoned, or it wasn't what you thought it was. So the abandonment isn't of what you thought, and then you use what you're learning, it will become less powerful,
Yeah.
less painful, less panic.
I think it developed, it depends on the situation too. Like if it
Mhm.
like um I think it hits most in intimate relationships
Mhm.
than in other things.
Mhm.
Other places I'm able to really cognitively like stop for a second and breathe and it takes a minute, but I don't lose, days to triggers. Like I'm able to reset for myself.
Mhm.
And but like when it comes to dating,
Mhm.
it can be very challenging. And I know a lot of people who have complex trauma, they say they're very successful, but they cannot get in a healthy relationship to save their life. And dating is brings up so much,
Mhm.
of their core wounds because you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position.
That's right.
And when we talk about the gay community as a whole,
Mhm.
there's a lot of trauma in the gay
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
I would, still, as Dr. Frank Anderson would say, like growing up gay is still very much a trauma.
Mhm.
And a lot of people either are told they're fundamentally wrong by their parents or
Mhm.
that there's something fundamentally wrong about them by society, or it's usually
Well,
both.
yeah.
And so, because of that, I would argue I would say there's higher rates of narcissism
Mhm.
in the gay community. Like I see it a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
And what narcissism is, it's grandiose defenses to protect an inner core
Right.
wound of insecurity and shame.
Right. Right.
And where, men in general develop narcissism more because of the socialization they get as children. They get their emotions shut down,
Mhm.
to only really feel anger and to be dominant.
Mhm.
And that's what's to be a man.
Mhm.
Um, and then you also add the trauma aspect and part of it, and it's just like a petri dish. And
Mhm.
that's why there's so much domestic violence
Mhm.
in the gay community.
Mhm.
Um, and there's also a lot of drugs in the gay community. There's a lot of
Self-medication, is that one?
self-medication. A lot
Mhm.
of people are looking ways to soothe themselves,
Mhm.
either by doing drugs
Mhm.
or through sex
Mhm.
or, going to EDC,
Mhm.
concerts and getting high for, 4 days in a row.
Mhm.
Um, it's a way to not be with themselves.
Mhm.
And that's what healing from trauma is. You have to be in the present to heal from trauma.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, that's very painful. And so they either become workaholics and they're
Mhm.
always, on to the next thing, achieving the next big thing.
Mhm.
Um, they're afraid to be alone. They hate it. They always have to be doing something.
Mhm.
Or they turn, to self-medication, which is addictions.
Anything would feel
Yeah.
the pain from the wound.
Yeah.
Have you been in a healthy relationship yet?
I have not. I after my last relationship, it
Mm.
really messed me up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it really woke me up, just being like, I can't do this anymore because that almost like broke me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I for like 6 months, I was struggling to eat. I couldn't sleep. I was struggling with rumination. I was um just struggling to get through the day with
Mm-hmm.
panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I cannot let this happen ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so like I haven't dated, the last 3 years of my
Mm-hmm.
life because I was like, I need to do healing on my part
Mm-hmm.
from my childhood. So I stopped attracting, unhealthy
Yeah.
partners.
Right. Yes.
Um, and it really woke me up to narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was kind of already like acknowledging it, but then this relationship came and it was really the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was very, typical narcissistic relationship. Like 3 months into it, we were looking at wedding rings,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I knew it wasn't appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
It felt weird,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want the train to stop. I didn't want
Sure.
the
Sure.
excitement to stop. And I was like, oh, maybe this is just something, silly, and to just be in the moment. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I went along and went ahead, but we had to tell everyone there we were dating for like 3 years. And I was like, something's not. And every time, you know, he had a bad temper,
Mm-hmm.
he would create arguments out of the smallest of things
Mm-hmm.
and would just leave
Mm-hmm.
and would just be like, well, F you,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't care about your feelings. And he would use the sexual abuse against me,
Oh,
um, of
mhm.
like, this is why our relationship isn't working. Like, you're too vanilla in bed. Um, and like, I see you the way you look at other men, and it's really hurtful. So, like, I couldn't post anything on social media that was shirtless at all,
Mm-hmm.
that exposed because he was really insecure about himself
Mm-hmm.
because he had a concave chest,
Mm-hmm.
and I was fit, I'm athletic, and so he was really jealous of how other people saw me, and so that was controlled, just like my mom controlled what I
Mm-hmm.
posted on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a replica of how my mom treated me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he would hit me. Um, and it would be over the smallest childish things. Like one time, I cut him off in Mario Kart and he exploded and he hit me and it left marks all over my chest. And um
So what kept you there after that particular, I'm just taking that as an example, any of the events you could have walked, but what kept you there that after that event?
I felt like I couldn't leave. I felt like there was this internal battle
Mm-hmm.
that I can't leave, but I can't stay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to, I didn't want to be there anymore, but I also didn't want to leave. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like I wanted someone to make the choice for me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Um, and I think because of hope,
Mm-hmm.
of like the fairy tales,
Well, that's
we're
and the trauma bond, which you
in the
know,
trauma bond
right?
and afraid to be alone again. I was not good at being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And the traitor within. Also, some people have said it's like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and they're bickering, and who wins.
yeah,
If it's the devil, it's the traitor. And the traitor is saying, "Stay, to get better," or whatever stuff that you have to have in your head, so that you don't feel abandoned. Maybe in the end, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that's an example. Um, it that there was a conflict, you said,
yeah.
going on, and yet you stayed.
it was very much, and all of my friends were saying, like, David, get out of this relationship. It's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would slowly start isolating myself from them.
Mm-hmm.
A part of, I also was very clingy.
Mm-hmm.
There was things I did that also wasn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted to be around him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's part of, the disorganized attachment, putting all my eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he saw that and really took a hold of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was also like there's things he did like, and in the beginning I didn't even think he was attractive. I thought he
Mm-hmm.
was annoying, and I was like, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
But like, he kept showing up
Mm-hmm.
when it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Like my 20th birthday, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my sister, one of my sisters, and she receives, not as bad as the abuse, but definitely it was quite abusive what she received from my family. And I told her, I have PTSD from my childhood
Mm-hmm.
and she ended up telling my mom that my psychiatrist diagnosed me with PTSD. And my mom was like livid, outraged.
Well,
She
because
was like,
it makes her look poorly, and
bad.
the narcissist doesn't want to be
Yeah.
exposed.
And my sister's thing was like, well, I was just worried about David. And so I was like, that's the equivalent of telling someone who's domestically abusing someone that, hey, David thinks that you're a domestic abuser. Like, how is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom canceled my birthday party. We didn't celebrate my 20th birthday. And so, and my whole family, she just sent out a text message in the group chat. This year we're not celebrating David. And, my grandma was upset with me that I did something wrong, that I should have been nicer to my mom, that I was given a great childhood and I'm being ungrateful and what's, wrong with me. And that was hurtful because my grandma in a lot of ways is more of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my mom was just there when it was convenient for her. My grandma was the one who really took me to all of my doctor's appointments, took care
So
of me when I was sick.
she must have been told,
Yeah, she was told.
stories about you that
Yeah.
weren't true. Yeah.
And
I always say
and
that flying monkeys can be more painful than the actual, I mean, or equally as painful
yeah.
than.
And um and so what he did, he showed up to my birthday with, flowers and a birthday cake
Right.
and wine and
Mm-hmm.
celebrated my birthday. And, that was what won me over essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought I was, playing it safe because we were talking for like 3 to 4 months before we even officially started dating.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, we were talking for 2 weeks and then bam, we're
Right. So
we're
you were doing,
together.
you were being careful, you were doing everything right, even not even that interested in the beginning. So it wasn't
Yeah,
even like yeah. And he came in at the right time, did the
yeah.
right thing at the right time, I should say.
I feel like they always creep in when things are going wrong. Every person I've talked to,
Well,
client,
mhm.
they've always mentioned something happened, and then came a person who,
Well, so it's important for people to understand when we say that narcissists don't have empathy, they have cognitive empathy.
exactly.
So they don't feel it, they don't have compassion. The compassion doesn't go with their empathy, but they have, not everybody, but they can have the ability to understand your vulnerabilities and to know how to use them. And it's the
Yeah,
malignant piece of malignant narcissist, for example, that will take that information and instead of being there for you and being really careful not to hurt you, they will use it for their own means to an end.
yeah. And that's, the data mining that they're doing.
Mhm.
Um, the intrusive questions they're asking, it seems like they're really interested in you, but it's just them really gaining information about you to use later against you.
Mhm.
And, they're Mr. and Mrs. Wonderful, for the first
Mhm.
3 to 4 months, but right when they know that you love them, when you start using that word love, that's when they know, like, okay, I got you.
Hmm.
And that's when the mask starts slipping off a little bit, and little by little they start critiquing you, and then it starts with small things, and then it kind of becomes like, bigger things, and then it becomes so big you don't know how to get out of it.
Well,
Um,
and then what happens is you or the person who's the victim will then say something to them like, "Well, I don't like how you treated me," or something, because now they are like testing the water. They're kind of pushing the boundaries. And then once you do that, then you're hitting their ego, their frailty, and then they respond with a bang, usually.
yeah. And um,
How long were you with him?
we were together for a year,
Okay.
and it was the longest year of, my life. Because we were together for so many of the days.
Hmm.
And I, again, I was, the power imbalance was really unequal. I became his financial advisor, I became his therapist, I became his cook, I became his best friend. And like I naturally took on these roles because I was so used to it with my mom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And like there was just things that he did that was very childish. And I'm just like, what do you he had, $20,000 worth of debt, but he wanted to get a new Bronco that was, $55,000, and he would justify it because of this and that. I'm just like, okay. Or he would always, be out spending lavishly on new clothes
Hmm.
when he didn't need it,
Oh yeah.
or could never hold a job and was
Hmm.
always, bouncing the job because he would get fired.
Hmm.
Um, and he also gave really there was not a lot of whole caring
Hmm.
about, my emotional needs. He would also take jabs at me by saying like, I'm easy goods, I'm a whore, and um he would also like these coercive control things. Like he would also talk about how, being that he's Sicilian, he would talk about how his cousins are in the mafia, and some of his cousins aren't allowed in the United States, and they live, still in Sicily. And so, he would tell me these things, I feel like, in advance,
Control.
control. And, he would say the stuff around his mom, and his mom would agree. His mom would be like, oh yeah, like your cousin so and so. And
Hmm.
so like I'm thinking like okay. And so when, we did break up, we would break up, off and on too.
Hmm.
It would be hot and cold, hot and cold. And one time, he broke up with me and blocked me and everything. So I couldn't get a hold of him. Felt like someone set gasoline inside of me.
Yep.
And so I drove over to his house,
Hmm.
knocked on the door, ringing on the door frantically, call his friend. That's the only person I know that can talk to him.
Hmm.
She's like, okay, I'll talk to him. He comes out eventually, stone cold face,
Hmm.
like not a care in the world. He's like, why are you here? Like I'm inconveniencing him.
Hmm.
And was just so malignant and so dismissive and self-righteous,
Hmm.
and did not care at all how distraught I was.
Hmm.
And he would be like, well, I think, um, we need a break or whatnot, or that I'm doing this because I care about you. And, would slam my door and, walk back to his, house. And his friend ended up telling me, like, and his best friend at the time ended up telling me, like, David, I'm going to tell you something that I had to learn. She's like, either you can end this now and it will be one big hurt, or you can still keep holding on to the leash and it will be these thousands of micro hurts that will end up being more hurtful than the big hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you're going to have pain either way.
Mm-hmm.
And she would, tell me that really stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's when I started seeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, he came back and we got back together.
Mm-hmm.
And, that lasted for another like month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But then, he's like started blocking me on social media and like there's no talking about that. Apparently my social media was more important to me than it was about the relationship. I guess that's to him, that's what he believed, even though I had at the time like 600 followers that I barely even talked to that were like from college or high school friends. And so I'm like,
Well,
okay,
well, he's saying either he's coming from his own wounds and
yes,
his own triggers, or or he's manipulating. But whatever
yes,
he says doesn't make it true.
yes.
And you know.
And so it ended up ending, he ended up actually replaying the sexual abuse. How like when, you know, we went to go to this park in Richmond, Virginia, and Belle Island.
Hmm.
And, he picks me up. We go back to we go there. We start talking. Everything's fine. We start walking to the aisle, and he sees my phone. He sees like a text message, and he's just livid, and he just like walks off. And he's like, I don't want to talk to you. So I'm basically like chasing him, while everyone's like looking at us. And he's like, I don't want, I had basically had to beg him to take me back home because he was just gonna leave me there. But it was like 30 minutes away from my house,
Hmm.
from where I lived. And so again, I was dependent on him
Hmm. Of
to
course.
take me back,
Right.
just like my sexual abusers were.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And also he ended up taking me back, and he said something that I was just in such a fight or flight. Like I just feel like everything went black, and I really don't remember what happened next, but I just like got into my apartment and just like dissociated.
Hmm.
And um, you know, a week and a half goes by, he ends up breaking into my apartment
Oh.
and like I to like threaten me um that I better like watch myself and watch what I say to people, and that he's gonna sue me for defamation for saying things about to my friends. And I was, part of it I was terrified, and part of it, I know he was just I was just pissed off because I'm like, why the hell are you here?
Hmm.
And so I ended up having to call the police, and I made a police report,
Hmm.
and but I couldn't get a restraining order against him,
Why?
because I would have to go to court for it,
Mm.
and I would still have to hand him papers and interact with him.
Mm. Okay.
So, and then, what I didn't share is that, because of the sexual abuse, right? I was, well, I was also sexually abused, outside of, these experiences. When I was assaulted when I was in choir in high school, and, a guy brushed my inner thigh
Hmm.
on accident, turned over, and he said, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. And then he goes back in again and he grabs my inner thigh and he was like, oh, I know it's okay. And I'm like, what? The WTF? And then I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to cause any trouble.
Hmm.
But then, a few months later goes by and I hear someone else say, so and so don't touch me.
Hmm.
And that just set me off. And I like went to the counselor's office. I told them what happened.
Hmm.
Um, my choir teacher didn't even believe me. She was like, I remember we were in the room and there was a student teacher there. He should have even been in there. But she said, I don't think he had any bad intentions. And, you know, acted like I was an inconvenience to her.
I'm so sorry. Mm,
And even like my I wanted to leave school that day,
hmm
and my doctor even called me. Like my whole family made me feel bad about it because
hmm
I was causing this huge ruckus that
Oh no.
I shouldn't press charges because he's so young and that would ruin his life. And
Where's the support
um
for you? Where's the I
exactly.
believe you and you're worthy and you're
And my doctor ended up telling me that, about a time that she was sexually assaulted in New York, and how she ended up, grabbing his wrist and told him basically to F off, and to like that you have to have a thick skin.
I'm sorry. No. That's
And I just felt just so much shame because I was like, no one's seeing this. And I knew it was wrong too. I was old enough to know like this is effed up. And I was, a junior in high school then. Um, so I was like 17. Um, and that happened. Um, there was another time where there was this guy um that I was introduced to through a mutual friend, and we um ended up having sex in the woods, when we were walking, and there's things I told him that I didn't want to do, but he did it anyway.
hmm which is
And
not okay.
yeah, and he threw my clothes at me and told me to get dressed, and again I was just violated. And um I was stealthed in college,
Mm,
where I told a guy to use a condom, and he didn't put he took a condom out of his drawer, and I was laid down. I thought he was putting it on, but he was just crinkling it up, making me think he was putting it on. And I didn't realize that he didn't put it on until after, until we changed positions, and I was in such a freeze response, I didn't say anything. But I come back home to my dorm and I tell my dorm mates, and they're like, David, you need to go to the hospital. Like, you could have gotten HIV. You need to go on PEP. And I was terrified. I was like, no, I can't go, because what if, my parents find out and it's on their health insurance bill that I was at a hospital and that I had received these types of treatments? Like, what are they gonna say? What's gonna happen? I was so terrified of my parents that I ended up, just pushing it away,
oh, you didn't go.
and I didn't go. And um I found out 6 months later I ended up testing positive for HIV
Mhm.
and for Hep C.
I'm so sorry.
And
Mhm.
I found out because I was getting tested to go on PrEP. That's how I found out. And um I wanted to go on PrEP earlier before I went to college, but my doctor didn't think it was a good idea. She wasn't informed well enough to know about the new medications. She was more concerned about my liver, which is true. It can, cause damage to your liver, but I feel like it outweighs the of getting HIV.
Mhm.
Um, and so I felt failed by a lot of people.
You're, but rightfully so. I mean, you were.
Um,
You were.
and ironically, I was taking my cell bio class, and we just learned about HIV like 2 weeks ago before the semester ended. And I
Mhm.
was home now for the semester during summer. And so I knew what the virus was doing inside my body. Like, I knew how it was replicating. I knew how it was attacking me. And I was like, w- I was in such a state of dissociation for like 4 months. I thought I was sleeping, and I was waiting for someone to wake me up that I was late for class,
Mhm.
but no one ever came and woke me up. And um, you know, I wanted to tell my mom, and I just wanted the comfort of a mother's love so badly. even though I knew she's not a safe person to tell, my, primal need for a mother
Mm-hmm.
overrid that. And, my doctor came over and she's the one who told me. I remember the day clear as day when she told me, and she was the one who took me to go get tested. You have to get tested a second time to make sure it's not a false positive. And so she's the one who took me. She lived in my neighborhood, and she asked, "Do you want me to tell your mother?" And a part of me was like, "No, don't tell her." But a part of me just really wanted my mom to tell me everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, telling her. My doctor told her she is now coming down from school because she is a teacher. And for like the first 24 hours, she was really nice to me. And like we got back, from the testing from lab court, and I am just like breakdown. That's when it finally hits me. And the words who came out of my mouth was, "Who would ever love me?"
Oh.
And that is what I was more worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's just re says everything about what happened.
Right.
That I was looking for love so badly as a kid.
Yes.
And I just became, happy with my body. I just, without Accutane, I just was learning to love myself. And now I feel like I had to relearn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, um, she, after, the mask fell, it was, "You're disgusting.
Oh,
That this affects me more than it impacts you.
oh gosh.
Um, you did this to yourself." And she said that, I had to make sure everything was spotless because I share a bathroom with my sister.
Oh,
And so I had to bleach every time I used the bathroom.
oh, I'm so sorry.
And um, like my mom ended up telling everyone in my family without my, permission at all. She, told my sister, even though I wanted to tell her myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to tell my grandma, but she told my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
She told my uncle, and I wasn't even close to my uncle enough for him to even shouldn't be even knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he hasn't made,
Anyway, it was your choice
yeah.
who you told.
And like it ended up leading into a big fight. Like my stepfather was saying something along the lines of um like we send you off to college and like this is what happens to you. And um just wanting further control over me. I don't really remember what happened, but I just remember him saying something that unearthed me so much that I ended up running into my room. And at this point, my bedroom was on the second floor, right? But my family was also slowly erasing me from the family already at this point. Like they moved me out of my bedroom that I grew up in. They put me in the third floor. Um, and they made my bedroom that I grew up in into a guest room.
Mm-hmm.
I had geckos that I loved deeply.
Mm-hmm.
My mom got rid of them the first day I went to college.
Oh my.
Um, and so I go up running to, the door. I'm like terrified my parents are going to like kill me or something. I ended up calling my therapist in a need of desperation. I'm like, bless her heart. Um, and she's trying to like calm me down, and my stepfather's like banging on the door. I thought he's gonna break it down. And like I'm telling her that I want to call the police
Mm-hmm.
and I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Well, you don't really have grounds to call the police because it is his house."
She should have called the police for you.
And
Like, oh, you're not a mine. No, but still.
yeah, because I was 18.
Yeah, but
And
we have an obligation to report.
and So like my father was so enraged that I locked the door.
Hmm. He was losing
And
control of.
yeah, because it's his house. And um, I tell him I'm not talking to you unless, my therapist is on the phone. And so I had to merge the calls and she had to neutralize the situation.
Hmm.
She was like, David needs to be more clean because everyone he's gonna give everyone, HIV in the house. And they made me feel like I was radioactive. And um she was trying to like calm them down, like that's not how HIV works, but I don't think right now is the time for education.
They weren't hearing it.
Yeah. They're like, Mr. Reasoner, like you need to stop screaming. You
Hmm.
need to stop
Hmm.
you're scaring David.
Hmm.
And um the condition was I had to unlock the door for him to stop. And I was terrified to unlock the door. But I had to unlock the door. And, I went to go use the bathroom and I came back and he was standing in the laundry room, just staring at me with like the most disdain look I've saw for like life.
Hmm.
And um yeah, like I yeah, that was one of the worst, events that happened. Like my father was already violent.
Hmm.
He gave my sister a concussion um because she tested positive for weed
Hmm.
when she was in high school. And, they were doing drug tests on her. And she tested positive, and so he broke down the bathroom door and she was on the toilet. He grabbed her ponytail and slammed it across the wall. And my, rooms were next to the bathroom, so all of my trophies come falling down that I won from sporting events. I'm like screaming, like, what the hell? And he comes into my room and is like, do you want to be next?
Hmm.
And my mom's like just looks at me and like, David, just shut up. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just stop. And because she knew like if I said anything, he was going to attack me.
Hmm.
Um, like she went to, you know, she was 12th grade. She was also student aide for the nurse's office. She went to the nurse noticed that she was acting weird and noticed she had a concussion. She had ended up calling CPS.
Hmm.
My father had to come home from work and he was able to persuade the police officer that it was just a misunderstanding and nothing happened. Um, because family image to us was more important than the welfare of
I
the
know.
children.
Right. Yeah.
Um, like my parents would fiercely defend our image. Um, and the traitor within me is really I was such a happy light child
Hmm.
that was filled with so much light. I was so caring of everyone. I was easy to please. I didn't cry that much.
Hmm.
And I feel like my mom corrupted me.
Hmm.
It was like, we're going to put all of everything that's wrong within our family, and you're going to be the harbinger of it.
Hmm. The
You're going to
scapegoat.
you're going to be the storage unit of shame for our
Right.
family.
Right.
And so
Right.
as I got older, that lightness really faded away.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just almost gone, by the time I was, 20.
Hmm.
Um, and like there was just so much that happened that I'm just like, how is no one, seeing this? Even like the neighbors across the street would hear our parents fighting with us. It was
Well,
that loud.
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
Like,
And they would come over to our house and being like, is everything okay?
oh, they did try. I mean, they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my parents would just be like, "Oh, it's just the kids acting up." And Brian, cut that part out. And the stepfather, is just acting out. Um, Everything's under control, and she would try to like convince that everything would be okay because of they also had stepchildren, and like so they knew how it went, and their stepchildren were problematic, and so she would kind of level with them, and they would be like she would just kind of write it off, just stepchildren being stepchildren or children being difficult. So nothing was ever really, you know, done about it. But my parents were never really able to keep friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I did notice. It was always like a revolving door of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be really close with, the neighbors. And then next thing I know, they're not talking to them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're talking to other people in the neighbors. And then after a year or two, they're not really hanging out with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, yeah, it was just one chaotic ball of dysfunction. Um,
If you would look back and be able to talk to your younger self, to talk to your 4-year-old self, your 7-year-old self, your 13-year-old self, your 18-year-old self, what would you tell that person now?
I would say it's not your fault. It's
Yeah,
not you.
right.
It's really hard for me to converse with my inner child sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
especially in front of other people. Um, that's why the EMDR has been harder for me
Mm-hmm.
because I've been socialized not to show emotion.
Mm-hmm.
When I would cry, I would get in more trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I would cry out, my stepfather would come in and threaten me. So it is really hard for me to cry in front of someone,
Mm-hmm.
even to this day. Like I have to be really, really distraught to cry in front of someone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even like people I like trust and care about. Um,
Have you been good about those boundaries to keep people who are to keep your parents away from you, to keep or I know this father is different, your stepfather and mother away, to keep to not, well, you're not dating now, but to not have friends like that either. Have you been better about keeping people like that who could trigger you, who could mistreat you, who could abuse you away from you? Have boundaries up?
I feel like when when your normal is just so dysfunctional, it's you attract those types of people, and even like you don't even know you're attracting those types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, my my time in grad school was not a really pleasant one. It was my advisor was very abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Would curse at me, would slam his fist down, was, mock me for having a learning disability. And so in a lot of ways it re-triggered that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it almost went from one abusive situation to another.
Mm-hmm.
And like I also like had friends that at the time that like I adored,
Mm-hmm.
but would end up betraying me to get ahead.
Oh.
Um, and so I functionally
But
had a yeah, I
but
functionally yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, well, so the person that you worked with, I mean, at school, your advisor, I guess you couldn't change your advisor so easily.
No, no.
But because I even remember talking to you about that a while back. The people who were you thought were your friends that were manipulative and you didn't see it until after. Once you knew that, were you able to put boundaries up? Did you take care of yourself once you understood?
Yes, I was able to, you know, Yellow Rock. I was able to get what I need and get out. I was able to firewall, not really tell them anything personal about my life.
Okay.
Like I knew. how the game work. I knew I was just tired of playing it. Um,
Okay.
and
But that's big
yeah,
because you can't blame yourself for being manipulated.
yeah.
Please don't do that. I mean, one of the,
We're never responsible for our own betrayals.
well, that, yeah, that's true. You're never responsible for your your traitor within, although you can learn from your traitor within. That's where your own betrayals come in. But on the other hand, when someone manipulates you, that's not even your own, that's them doing this to you. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do too, because I've been a psychotherapist for almost 40 years and I still was manipulated by many narcissists in my life. And that's with knowledge. So please don't be hard on yourself. What's important is once you realize who they are, that you love yourself enough, or you know enough that, to take care of yourself. That once you do realize it and your trader isn't telling you, no, 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 it's not true, or you know what, they do love you, because you're going to have maybe a fight with, but once you do understand and you become, you're very, very intelligent and you do know this field. So once you get it, again, you can still be manipulated.
Yeah,
Once you get it, I hope that you continue to put the boundaries up that you talked about, either by gray rocking or yellow rocking or any of these things that, or complete, cutting them
yeah.
off.
I would say the voices in my mind
Mm-hmm,
have gone, their voices
mm-hmm.
have gone, are almost gone, are
Okay.
pretty much gone. I'm able to shut that down.
Mm-hmm,
I would have, I in the past I would have arguments in my head with
mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah.
Um, that's pretty much gone. I would say now what I'm really struggling with is the complex grief.
Yes.
And I've left the stage of anger.
Mm-hmm,
I think that's what got me out of, I was able to
mm-hmm.
take, 49 credits in a year to graduate early. I was having so
Yeah.
much
Mm-hmm.
it's anger can be a wonderful motivator. And
Yeah.
so, I was able to get out, but now I feel like once the anger is gone, you've used all of
You're spent.
you used all of your reserves
Right.
and you're tired.
Yeah.
It's not, it becomes almost the bereavement part,
Mm-hmm.
like an immense sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are still things that are very triggering for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that, I moved so far away from home. I moved over 1,000 miles away to, South Florida, where there's palm trees, everything's different. And um, like now that I moved closer home, I'm still in Florida, but I moved closer to home, seeing, the trees that are similar almost is
Mm-hmm.
triggering.
Mm-hmm.
Going to grocery stores
Mm-hmm.
are triggering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's such a mind F
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
also it feels like all of your memories are like a scrambled puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, time
Mm-hmm.
stamped, right? It feels
Right.
like everything has just been washed around.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the work I'm still doing.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to take time
Yeah.
and you're going to have triggers. It's, and you're going to have hopefully a support system. I think that's also really key to have
Yeah.
someone to talk to, because we don't have to do it alone,
No.
and other people have experienced different levels of, you know, so there are people out there that get it,
Yeah.
not just professionals. And if you ever go to a professional that doesn't get it, don't stay. You don't
Yeah.
have to stay with a therapist because they're a therapist. There are
Yeah.
bad therapists out there. There are therapists that don't get certain things out there that mean well, but they don't get it. They're therapy.
Part of the reason why I did the psychoeducation was so I could be at the same playing field
Hmm.
as a therapist,
Uh,
as a doctor, and use the same terminology. Like
yeah.
I've taken abnormal psych, personality psych, child
Mm-hmm.
development, leadership studies,
Mm-hmm.
charisma. And so like when someone says, "Oh, I think you're so and so," I would push back. I'm like, "No, I don't have that." Or I don't believe I have that because I feel like this resonates more
Yeah.
because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. You have to advocate for yourself,
Yes.
and love yourself enough to advocate for yourself. And it's a process. And you know what? There was a lot of abuse in your
Yeah.
life. It's going to take time, and have
Yeah.
patience with that, and self-compassion, and love. And even on days where you may not love each other because that voice comes in, work through it, and and get yourself back to where you will have self-compassion and self-love. And if you make a mistake, it doesn't mean that you'll continue to make a mistake. You can have 3 steps backwards and then the next day have 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
And the grief takes time,
Yeah.
and healing
For
takes
sure.
time, and healing can be painful.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I would say I've come a long way in the last 2 years.
yeah,
Um, I think right now, a lot of the trauma survivors I talk to, a lot of their trauma responses are being constantly reactivated because of the state of society we're living in right now.
yeah, I get it.
Um, and not having, people are not having a sense of purpose with losing work, being laid off, struggling to find work after graduating. Um, and so, um, you know, complex PTSD, it's really, I say it's like being homesick but never having a home to go to.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm,
um, a lot of times you end up spending fantasizing, like basking in the few sunshine moments you had as a
mm-hmm,
kid.
hmm.
And for me, that was playing video games.
Yeah. But then what
Oh,
those video games could have saved you.
yeah. And um, it's almost like you want it to be real so bad, though,
Okay. I get
right?
I can understand that.
And that's, it also comes with grief because, you've lost so much, like 20 years is a long time of your life to lose.
Well, you
Uh,
lost a lot of time where you could have just been you.
yeah. And that's why, like, for people who have complex trauma, a lot of the times they've forgotten a point where they weren't suffering,
Yeah.
that it's hard for them to imagine a time where they won't be suffering.
Yeah. Or trust it. If they
Yes.
have moments, trust it, believe it, you know, allow it.
Because like they've been in pain for so long
Hmm.
and been betrayed by so many people,
Hmm.
um, that it's hard to believe that good things will happen, that you're not like this
It's
bad
trusting.
egg.
Yeah. And it's not your
Um,
fault.
and it's like also you don't have, experiences to look back on, right? That were good, that you're like you can remember a time where the time was good, that the good times will come around, right? And
Yeah.
that's the difference between PTSD and complex trauma, right?
Mhm.
People who have PTSD, they're able to have a baseline and
Right.
return to
Right.
most of the time of what life was like before the event. The
Right.
the thing for complex trauma, there is no baseline for them to return to. And so um that's why there's that mistrust. And it's not necessarily trusting other people that's important, it's trusting ourselves that
Mhm.
we'll be okay when things do go wrong.
Right. Exactly.
Um,
Which is going back to I really hope that you can surround yourself by people that are good. It doesn't have to be a million, it could be one, but that
yes.
you find a person, a rock. Now you're the rock, but a person where that if you do feel that you can reach out to, or know you can, that's going to be there. Because again, support isn't, I mean, you could still do it without the support, but God, having one good friend or one good
Yeah.
therapist or one good, and I'm here for you also.
I would say,
It's
I know
important.
we're coming towards the end. Um, being gay is a very lonely experience,
Okay.
and you're chronically misunderstood by people,
Hmm.
and you feel very alone because there's not a lot of people. There's not, a sign on someone's forehead that says, "Oh, I'm also gay." And it's like, "Oh, let's be friends." That's not really how that works. And so dating is really hard. And, there comes to a point of the time where, you're healed and you're like, "Okay, but I want to feel something again." It's like I want to feel partnership with someone,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But for so many people, that's so hard for them because they live in areas that are rural, that are not as accepting. And, we're not meant to live solitary lives, right? We're a community-based species. And like that loneliness can
Hmm.
be very profound. Um, and I would say for me, the loneliness is still there. Building that solid support system is still something that I'm working on.
Hmm.
With my disorganized attachment style, usually when the best way I explain it is that I want to be courted. I want to be the one who's asked out.
Hmm.
But when someone does it feels so unforeign, it feels unsafe. It's like, why do you be nice to me?
Wow. Yeah.
And then
Get it.
I'm the one who ends up chasing other people
Okay.
who are not, I'm trying to get them to be good to me, right?
Yeah.
That's such a huge part of childhood trauma. It's trying
Yeah.
to get a bad person to be
Yeah.
good to you.
Yeah.
And And so that's where the push and pull is. It's also sometimes in my friendships where like I want to have friends, but then someone asks me to do something, and I'm just like, maybe it would be better to, just stay home and, read a book or play a game. And but the other night I have to remind myself I was wanting someone to ask me to do something. So
Mm-hmm.
it's also I tell people it's okay to have walls,
Hmm.
but you have to be very there's a very fine line
Hmm.
because the walls you build are oftentimes become the prison.
That's right.
Um,
Yep.
uh, and so what you want is fences. You want to be able to be able to look over that fence
Mm-hmm.
and being able, to see is it safe over there. But to be safe with the walls you build to protect yourself because oftentimes they become our prison. And we don't know how sometimes we build them so tall and so thick we don't know how to get out of them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's work.
Yeah,
It's work.
it's very very much work, and
But that push pull is tough.
yes, so I always say healing's a journey, never a destination.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
sometimes when you process one thing you get older, and then
Mm-hmm.
you process it again, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get older, and then you have a new lens on it, and so you're always constantly processing things.
Yeah.